Has your boss ever showed up at your front door? Yes. I had worked for several years under a kind, considerate boss named Carl. Aside from a few moments, he was always fair to all of us under him, and so we always did our best to keep our unit looking good for his sake as well as ours. He was also the kind of boss who never micromanaged us, treated us like adults, and expected us to get our work done without constant supervision. One year, my back went bad after a fun-filled family-style festival at my church, namely Tug of War, and I had a hard time getting out of bed due to constant and harsh pain. I found out that I had 3 herniated discs in my lower spine. Nothing short of an opiate would minimize the pain, but when I took them, my mind would literally shut down. Because of this, I refused to take the medication and looked for alternatives. My doctor wrote a note for my job, essentially telling them that I was to stay home until further notice. This meant that when my annual and sick hours were used up, I would be using short-term disability to get paid. Short-term disability was 75% of my pay, so while I was getting a paycheck, it also meant getting a little lean on the bill since I made the most money in the house and covered most of the bills. I was home for 3 months when there was a knock at the door. My mother, who was staying with us at the time, answered it and called me, telling me I had a visitor. When I get to the front, there was Carl. He asked how I was doing and how the progress on my back was going. I told him that standing and sitting for long periods of time was agony and that, despite getting injections into my spine, the pain had not diminished. When I asked him what brought him by, he told me 2 things. First, the employees had pulled together and chipped in some money for me, which he gave me in an envelope. Altogether, it was over $900, as well as a giant get well soon card signed by all of them. Secondly, he figured that I could use more money than what I was getting from disability, so he proposed that I work a 30-hour schedule from home, if I wanted it. He could arrange for me to get a company laptop, which I could use to remote to my desktop at the office. That way, I could do all of my assignments and provide reports to track my hours. Plus, it would allow me to go to therapy and work on getting myself mobile again. Of course, I said yes. Being stuck in bed was boring as hell, plus being able to make some money to support my family was a hell of an incentive. I did this for 3 months, during which my therapy, and more injections, put me in a position where I was in pain. But it was manageable to the point where I was no longer stuck in bed. We set a date where I could return to the office on a trial basis to see if I could manage to work for 8 hours a day without too much strain. Thankfully, I was able to do so. Carl is retired now. I told him that I was grateful for what he did and for showing us what a good boss can do when they look out for the people under them. Thanks again, Carl, wherever you are.